Hello everybody, welcome once again as ever to Building Blocks, where we program Minecraft mods live on camera and things go dreadfully wrong. And tonight we're going to be taking it relatively easy. We tried to do some stuff last week that turned out to be deceptively complicated in the basis that spellcasting just decided not to work for some reason. And we just had to try and tease out exactly why every single step, and it was weird, and it continues to be weird, and I think I may just have to do some hard coding on that at some point. But tonight, we're going to be working on the AI. Here we have the AI section of the Kirin, and as we can see, no fort's head empty, so we need to actually program some behaviors specific to the witch and the Kirin in order to give them a little bit more personality. A little bit more character, as it were. And I have a few ideas for what these could be. The first and most obvious one, I think, is for the witch. The witch is sort of the patron that gives you teleportation, like, access and whatnot, so I feel like the witch should, like, occasionally flit and teleport to somewhere. So that should be our first thing, but let's have a look at what we've got so far. Because Lord knows I forget every week, why shouldn't you? So let's see. Oh, yes. There was another thing we figured out last week when we gave up trying to figure out what was going wrong with the spellcasting. Which was, and this is one of the strangest sentences I've ever said on stream. We now have solid whales. You can just run along the entire length of them, and you'll never fall out. Because all of their hitboxes now are in fact fully solid, and therefore you can stand on them all the way. I feel like I need to animate them so that they match the rising and lowering of the body, but yeah, that's a thing now. It's just, yeah, we have solid whales. That'll be interesting as well with giants, because giants are the same thing, except they don't use the advanced hitbox controller part thingy that I made for whales to try and get interactions and stuff going. But, interesting nonetheless. Twitch app not letting you log in is homophobia. It is indeed. Bad on Twitch. But anyways, if we head to our testing, our main testing world, which I know the file name says backup, shush. And we head back to where we are actually doing everything. This is at 0, which is basically spawn. And it's just where we were testing that out of range of everything else going on. Hello, baby trans. How you doing? And over here, near to this fairly renovated locale, the archfey now have an overgrowth ability, which basically decorates their environment. So in the case of the Kirin, it generates a forest. In the case of the witch, it spooks things up a little bit by adding little bits of cobweb and lily pads and creep as well, inert dead creep. But we're going to start off by making the witch actually teleport rather than just wander. And I think that we can do that by looking at Endermen, because I presume Endermen have something similar. I know that they will walk around, and I know that they'll teleport. I don't know off the top of my head if the teleporting and the wandering is in fact just something that they do naturally, or if that's like built in. So there's wander right there. There's no AI task for teleporting as near as I can tell. So if we check their living updates, yep, that's fine. AI tasks. If it's daytime and it's after that, target change, get brightness, can see sky, then teleport randomly, so attack target null. Okay, so yeah, it's not part of their Wonder AI, which is fine because we can make it part of an AI. And for this, we probably need to have our own little package. So let's see, we want this to go ai.patron. That will just create that package for us. So entity AI witch flit. Flit sounds like a decent term. Okay, so this is going to be very much like Wander Avoid Water, straightforward, but we are just going to change. We're going to override it slightly so that instead of always pathing to a thing, we'll just occasionally teleport directly there. So let's have this override that. Wander Avoid Water. Add the missing constructor. What is that looking for exactly? No idea, because they weren't named. Oh boy. That presumably is speed. If I had to guess, that's speed. Yep. So that's the speed at which they move through it. So how's everybody else today? Doing okay? Now let's call that speed in just so we can actually distinguish that in case we have to write it down later. And let's also get a float. So probability in. Is that... actually, let's take that out again, because that's already being handled by Wander Avoid Water, I think. Yeah, just a probability right there. Not sure what that ties into. Next float, greater than that, then get land position. Okay then. Right. So, when we get to start executing, we want to run our own special little code, which means we're going to need an RNG. So, random, blue random. I call that private final random. Let's get some actual sensible names here. Okay. So if the rand.next int, let's say 1 in 8, then teleport. Otherwise, just do the normal, essentially. So 7 times out of 8 they'll actually wander over, but the 8th time they'll teleport. And let's grab that, because that will cause actual effects to happen. And I think we're going to need the creature as well. So yep, that. Okay. Swap that for get entity worlds. That flag is just whether or not it succeeded. Thanks, Smeg, that this X, Y, and Z were not generated as private values like they frequently are in these AI tasks. Makes things very easy. Okay. So with that, if we just add that to the witch, every now and then, they'll just teleport directly to where they want to go. But there is a little bit I think that we need to override because... Applet boolean use default wonder return false, because that is part of our oddity code, and it basically just causes them to use the wonder code, like just wandering around and avoid water. But we want to ignore that for a hot second. Oh, should use default move AI. Is that it? No, should use default wonder. There we are. That's the word I'm looking for. Here. Okay. And then... we more or less just take that exact code and replace it with our fleet. So now, if we hop in and have our witch wander about, we should see that occasionally they teleport. And hopefully that should also include the AI. Should include the AI because when the Enderman does it, it's doing it outside of AI tasks, and that should only happen server-side. So we should hear noise, see particles, that sort of thing. Which is perfect. So how's everybody been this week? So far? I'm aware it's only Tuesday, but still. Did not mean to grab that, but okay. Don't need that, don't need that, don't need that. Right. So, and is this not just... no, that's just a teleport back. Do I have something up here for turning the witch on off? No, but I can make one. Hello? There you go. Okay. So we just want to keep an eye and see if the witch whilst wandering teleports on occasion. And also wanders ever. That would also be something useful. Okay, well, good starts. We haven't broken them wandering. This might be the AI equivalent of watching grass grow. Maybe I should doubt. Maybe I should have doubted the probability of them teleporting up. Just whilst I'm waiting here. Fortunately, they will mostly just wander around that cyan wool, so at least we shouldn't have to move our camera very much whilst we're watching here. If I seem a little low on energy today, it's because I'm quite low on spoons. My dad had planned to visit with my granddad today. Taking still full, measures, so Fuzz and I would have just been basically upstairs the whole time, to get some renovation work done on the ground floor of the house, and unfortunately, we were only going to find that out, this morning. So... we knew it was going to happen, late yesterday, and then we found out if it was going to happen at all, this morning. So Fuzz and I panic cleaned, basically, is the thing. So we hoovered, we scrubbed, we moved everything, cleaned, and put it back again. And I had the auspicious task of cleaning the bathroom for the most part. But what that basically meant is that Fuzz and I burned a whole ton of spoons. in the last 24 hours, and we are quite tired. Spoons, for those unaware, is essentially a measure. It's one system of measuring like neurological energy. So like instead of being, oh, I should just like, I don't know, drink a Red Bull or something, a spoon can't be replenished that easily, but it is nonetheless expended when you perform certain tasks. And some tasks use more spoons than others, and sometimes the amount of spoons in a given task fluctuates, and frequently you underestimate how many are actually going to be needed because it takes spoons to calculate as well. Right, so far we haven't seen any teleportation. So let's go into the code and make it a definite. So instead of a 1 and 8 for the moment, let's make it actually, like, guaranteed. Yeah, just gonna mark that as being dead code because it will never appear, but that's fine. That's fine. We just want to make sure that the witch teleports. Yeah, we then, like, we were utterly exhausted. I made dinner after that and everything. I had like 1 a.m. And then this morning, about 10:30, whilst we were trying to sleep through the sound of basically builders working next door because they've been doing a bunch of renovation themselves, we get a call from my dad that says that my stepbrother has a persistent cough, and we suspect he might have caught the plague. So he has been isolated, but because he lives in the same household as my dad doesn't want to risk going to my granddad, who's going to help out with the stuff, because my granddad obviously is quite vulnerable, and there we go. Also doesn't want to come here because Fuzz is also vulnerable, and me too, probably. So that wasn't going to happen, but we still spent all the spoons cleaning anyways, so we're kind of worn out today. But okay, that looks functional. So every so often, currently it's guaranteed, but every so often the witch will teleport to their wander destination rather than walking. And because it's based on the Wander AI, I think that means they'll only actually teleport to areas they could walk to. Let's have a look. I need to dive into this code. Can you guys watch them for a minute? Oh no, the navigation is done after that. Interesting. So they will actually try to teleport to areas they couldn't walk to. Next question. Is that a problem? Is it worth us actually fixing that? Or is that fine? Because it means that occasionally they'll appear inside of houses, but then they're not restricted because they can teleport out of those houses and like such. There's a question. I think I would kind of prefer it if they only teleported to areas they can path to. Which here, of course, is a relatively negligible limitation. Yeah, let's adjust that very slightly. So yeah, here is the should execute. This determines if the creature will start to actually wander, and it gets a position, but it doesn't actually check any kind of navigation on it. What actually checks the navigation is start executing, which is when it starts doing the task. So because it only starts actually checking there, that theoretically means that, as near as I can tell, there's basically no actual, like, meaningful clarification on this. Random target block. Random position. Home distance. There's not even actually any check to see if the creature could occupy that space. Oh, that's interesting. That is a surprising amount of, like, lack of clarity inside of the random position generator. Ah. Very interesting. Very interesting indeed. Okay. So. Let's keep that as is for the time being. So let's see. Block position. Destination equals... So that's where we want to go. So if... let's see. The creature... Get distance... So if the distance to that position is greater than, let's say 5 blocks. Then the next thing that we want to do is check if we can actually get a path to it. So the navigator, path to position, the destination, does not equal null. There. So if it's more than 5 blocks away from our current position, if we can get a path to it, which means if we could walk there, then, in this case, currently, definitely, we teleport. Otherwise, random chance, we teleport. We only used that once, so let's just... There. We can probably simplify this as well. So then we only need one call to the super. There. Okay. Simples. So with that, let's give that a shot. So they'll never teleport into areas that they couldn't physically access. They won't teleport randomly into a cave, they won't teleport randomly into an area that they can't occupy, because the Pathfinder will recognize that they wouldn't be able to fit there. So that should hopefully be a sufficient guarding. And that will also mean that they're not going to teleport the whole time we're watching them, they'll just, like, more or less every other. So basically 5 blocks is how far the witch, like, waits for. It's like, if it's less than 5 blocks, I guess I can walk there. If it's more than that, screw that, we're teleporting. But we just have to wait for them to wander first. Come on. I should dial priority while testing this kind of stuff. Actually, it's not, strictly speaking, the word wouldn't be priority, it would be wait in this context. Oh, this particular part of development would be known as playtesting, or quality assurance. And if you ever get offered a job in quality assurance, know that you will spend so much time just staring at the world, waiting for the thing to happen. Or, even more boringly, repeating the same thing over and over and over in every combination of methods you can possibly think of in order to make a bug happen. Okay, that was less than 5 blocks, so no teleport that time. I'm simplifying slightly. There are tools that will do that nowadays, because companies realized that they were basically putting too little into QA, so that the QA testers basically had to think of ways to make their workload feasible. So they created tools that will basically just mimic players doing stuff over and over and over and over several thousand runtimes, unless something weird happens. Though that still mostly just tends to happen. That still mostly only catches crash bugs. It doesn't really have a concept of non-crashing bugs that are a problem, that are the wrong thing. So you still have to do quite a bit of data analysis for that. I wonder if there's a distance I should worry about. Like maybe 5 blocks is too far according to the Wonder Code. Because the Wonder Code here will bear in mind the home position. That's why they're sticking around the home position. Right, well, let me check the code on that. So let's see, find random target. Find random target block. Generate random position. Home position. So our creatures do have a home. So the maximum home distance, what do we set that for the witch? We set that, I think, in the archfey code, when they get spawned in. Okay, so max distance is 8 blocks. Right. Let's increase that to 10, which will not affect these archfey. So before I close down this, let's actually edit their data. So what's the value we want from that? Home position, yep. Where's home distance? Home distance, 8. Home dist. So let's see. We hit 2 entities, which means we hit these 2 entities because they're the closest. And since we haven't changed anything else, we know that should be fine. So it's generating a random position around the home position, so if it ends up basically at a 180 from the witch right now, they will absolutely end up wandering to the place that we are caring about, and consequently teleporting. But yeah, I think I am gonna increase the weighting of that, which, because of the way weights work, means reducing this number. Reduce that to 1. That is now basically the highest priority behavior the witch has. Wandering. Which almost seems a little cruel, considering what's going to happen to them. I was wondering, the witch is going to be encountered in a dimension called the Feywild, in a very dense and unpleasant forest, in a brightly lit clearing. And there is where they are imprisoned. In that small clearing in the middle of a dense, unpleasant forest. There they were imprisoned by the Kirin, who wanders quite a bit freely. Imagine if any other creatures behaved like this. Building mob farms would be very interesting if mobs could just, like, walk, like, teleport past filters randomly. I wonder if I should make the witch teleport when they're wet as well. Like, the Kirin gets struck by lightning when they're wet. I think in this particular branch of lore, that's not necessarily necessary. Come on. You have very few other AI tasks. I know you can do this. Okay, promising start. You did a thing. Now do the thing. That was quite a far distance. Must have rolled badly on that one. You're definitely wandering a fair bit, but I feel like you should be teleporting more. Apparently not, which means we might have a problem. So let's put some sysouts and find out. So let's see, double dist equals that. And let's see, path. So if dist is greater than or equal to 5, that's probably one thing I should do there. And if path does not equal null, so if this works properly, what we should see is distance such and such greater than or equal to 5, route available, teleporting to. But if it's not working properly, we should basically see that this never triggers. We should see, we should never see distance, or we should never see route available. Or we'll see both, but there'll be no teleport, which means we rolled we rolled badly here. But a next int of 2 should mean the values that come out of that are 0 or 1, so equaling 0 is a 50-50 chance. I will keep an eye on the console here. Put something at the start of start executing, just so I know when this was actually, like, running. This is the kind of fiddly, nitty-gritty stuff that you kind of encounter a lot in programming this. It's like you want AI behaviors of this nature at the very specific to be sufficiently specific that they don't happen at inappropriate times, but also like sufficiently vague that they still actually like look, they have the semblance of some cogitation going on. A lot of AI programming, especially in video games, is not strictly speaking true. It's just it's not actual like full AI. There's no neural networks. There's no algorithms or anything going on. It's just sort of a matter of how complicated how simple can we make it, but still look like there's intelligence going on. And that's how you get a whole bunch of NPCs that are real dinguses, but are nonetheless given the appearance of actually like of actual like stratagem and such. Okay, so all 3 times that so far it's triggered have been route available, 2 teleports, but I noticed that neither of them actually went anywhere. Which is interesting indeed. Can we say a 3rd time? Interesting. Okay, so down here we can actually see all the different wanderings. So distance of 10, distance of 5.9, distance of 9.8, distance of 10.63, and all of them have been route available because there's not really anything here to prevent motion like that. Only 2 actually attempted, but out of about 5 that's fine. But for some reason we didn't teleport those times. Interesting. So I wonder why... I wonder where that went wrong. Doesn't seem to be... Oh, there's the collision boxes, yeah. That's what prevents... That'll be the part that prevents Enderman from teleporting into solid blocks and whatnot. Very curious. Let's just give ourselves that. So, just in case the teleport fails, we should still actually do stuff. Oh, that's interesting. We've got 3 instances of route available, but distance not being that. Okay, let's clean this up a little. And add ourselves the starting one. Set those a little bit so they're easy to distinguish as different points. Yeah. Just to make them a bit more readable in the console. This is me being rather particular and pernickety about this, but yeah, it's interesting to program this stuff as well. Because as we say, if we just let them teleport anywhere, then they might end up inside of solid walls. We can see that the teleport code, like the vanilla teleport code that the Enderman used, doesn't let them do that. Okay, that's one thing ticked off. If we let them teleport to anything that they theoretically can't even walk to, then they might get stuck in your redstone, or they might be in a cave, or any number of edge cases that leads to them actually escaping their like spawning location, that sort of thing. And just have no idea where they are. You now just have to core out a 10-block radius around their home position as you have identified it. So it's helpful to have limitations like this that are just like, okay, you could walk here, so it's fine if you teleport there. So once again, keeping an eye on our console. Just waiting for attempting to wander and then hopefully anything else to show up. Okay, attempted to wander, distance 7.8, route available, but we didn't hit the random on that, so we didn't roll the dice there on teleporting. Attempted to wander, distance 13.8, route available. Again, no random there. Teleport failed that time. So we actually walked over. Okay, good. We wanted to have that so we didn't lose any wandering. That one was less than 5 blocks, so didn't get any alert there. Come on. I wonder, like, both times they've attempted to teleport, the teleport has failed. I wonder why that is. I can only presume it's because the Wonder Code picks an absolutely
Good day,
random...
mates. Sorry I'm late for stream. So here to 1.5 year line G scrum.
Oh, thank you very much for that, sub Espa, and welcome. Always good to have you. So far, we've had 2 attempts at teleportation, both of which failed. And I can only presume that's because the random position generator, the random position generator doesn't check for an area that the witch could actually occupy, so it might pick an area that's underneath the world or otherwise in solid blocks, and the teleport code actually cares about that. There we go. So the teleport code actually takes our takes into account the space that the witch has to occupy, but since the actual wonder code it's built on looks for a random position that doesn't care, the wonder code can trigger with a destination that is not like that. But yeah, so it's essentially it's the person that's like picking the destination for the road trip doesn't have a concept of like geography or where the roads are and such, and the person who's actually like planning out like the route to the destination and like calculating all of the all of like the fuel consumption and stuff actually cares. So you're gonna end up with probably a lot of false positives, false triggers on this particular AI behavior, which I could fix. Would just be a matter of, again, is it worth fixing? Like, I would care about that kind of thing. But it would be mostly a back-end stuff thing, so, yeah. Now playing Stress. Yeah. There we go. So we could, by going into should execute, just spin, get position, until we get something that's actually useful. But for the purposes of this, I think that's fine. Only had the French version in Sweden? Of Stress? Or something else? What do you mean? So anyways, let's dial that down to 6, and that is now our witch flitting. I'm actually going to dial that down a teensy bit so that we actually just teleport a little bit more often. And that up. So it's less likely to happen, but requires a shorter distance to consider happening. Okay. Gives our witch a little bit more personality. Now for the Kirin. I don't want to do too many behaviors that modify the world. So what is a good behavior for something that like the Kirin does every now and then? Could have them follow you every now and then, but that might be a bit intimidating. Like if there's a player nearby, they'll just like randomly follow them for like a few seconds or something. Like, hey buddy, what you up to? Looks cool. Oh, there's an idea. I could have them actually like look at where you're looking. That could be interesting. Yeah, let's add that. There's literally nothing inside of Minecraft that actually like follows your cursor in any fashion. Like there's nothing in Minecraft that all mobs in Minecraft mostly do is look around randomly, or they look at an entity. They don't actually follow something. So that could be interesting. Entity AI Kirin point. What do we call this one? Follow look? I don't know. Look follow. So, do we want... We should make this just be a player. Because if it decided to follow like an entity, like another mob, then it's not actually gonna do anything. So this is what I mean by giving the aesthetic appearance of intelligence. We are going to make it seem as though the Kirin understands necessarily that you're looking at something. And is therefore trying to follow what you're looking at. Now the easiest way to do that is to just have them mirror your head angles, but we can probably be a little more clever about that, I think. Okay, so should execute. First thing we need to do is actually find a target player. So for that, we need a list of entity player. within, let's say, 16 blocks. So we just set that as a random. So this dot target player does not equal null. And target player's distance to our creature is lower than, let's say, 6 blocks. Okay. And we also need a should continue. Hey Dusty, how you doing? And we'll just say follow time is greater than 0. Okay, so let's start by just having the Kirin's values match what you're looking at. So in that case, this dot the creature dot copy as location and angles, but we don't want to do that because it will teleport us. Yaw and pitch are the main things we're actually interested in. Your head equals target player rotation your head. And the creature rotation pitch, target player rotation pitch. Okay. Let's add that. We probably want to set the mutex bits. I'm horrible at mutex bits, but okay. Let's see, motion 2, so 2, no, 1. Mutex bits is actual binary, which is how there are different flags. Wait, to be 0, no, it will be 2. I think. Which should mean that it will override actual, like, just casual looking around. So again, start with high priority. Right. So this should just mean that very often, like occasionally, if we're within 6 blocks of the Kirin, then we should be able to we like every now and then for about 10 seconds they will actually mirror what like our head angles and such. I have completely skipped past my break, haven't I? Huh, okay. I'll be back in about 10 minutes then, everybody. See you then. Right. Now that I've actually had my mandated break, let's see if the Kirin will do the thing. Did I turn off overgrowth? There's a question. I know I didn't. I know I didn't turn off lightling spawning, but I guess we'll find out. Okay, turn you back on. Up here. Nope, that's summoning lightlings. Okay, it's fine. Which also needs a translated name or just none, but either way, it's fine. Yeah, there we go. So currently, the Kirin is following at least most of our look angles, as though they are endeavoring to actually look at what we're looking at. But, obviously, it's not perfect. It's some additional things. Also, we saw the witch teleport. Yay. Grand. So I tidied up a little bit here. I removed the less than 6 because if they're within 16, we basically can use that as that marker. That's fine. I also checked if the Kirin can see that particular player, because if they can't see that player, then how could they possibly follow where that player is looking? And obviously we need to fix this up a little bit. So rotation your head and rotation pitch. Yes, good. Now we can also get the look helper. So entity look helper. And let's see what values the helper gives us. We can set look position and with an entity, which that just makes them look at the entity. And it looks like it is mostly just a matter of making them look at the same point. Okay, so if we can calculate the point that the player is looking at, then we should be able to make the Kirin actually look at the same point. So, Vec 3D, look Vec, I guess we'd call this one. This dot target player dot get look Vec, which is a normalized vector of where this entity is looking. So we want to run a ray trace from look pos, which is new Vec 3D. This dot target player dot pos x, this dot target player pos y plus target player's look height, or eye height rather, And this dot tis target player dot plus z. There, that is the basically where your eyes are located. So if we take that as our starting point, add lookvac times, let's say about 100, we can get the position at which you are looking, essentially. So let's see, vec3d look point equals lookpos.add lookvec.x times about 100, we'll say. Lookvec.y times about 100. And a lookvec.z. I would do this much more easily by just multiplying the vec3d, but unfortunately vec3d does not have a multiplication handler in it. It's actually Minecraft code, believe it or not. So, okay. That will tell us where we are looking, and then we can just have the helper set look position with lookpoint.x, lookpoint.y, and lookpoint.z. And then let's go to entity AI beg, I believe it is. Yep. Because we need look position, so that's about 10, and the vertical face speed. Gotcha. And that just basically controls how quickly the creature will look at things. Now, because this is just a rote position right now, it'll look about 100 blocks in any direction we're looking, which is not necessarily what we're actually looking for. Hi, what's up? I can try, sure.
Do you want me to send you a
The...
Do you want me to send you a priority list?
Sure.
Good night.
Night night. Sleep well. Alright, so yes, as this is just a pure rote calculation with no recognition of the world, this means that the Kirin will not actually look at a wall that we're looking at, they'll actually like look 100 blocks through that wall. But we'll see if that actually helps us at all. And then we can move to looking at whatever a ray trace has us looking at. So essentially we're making it so that the Kirin understands what we're pointing at as opposed to looking at just to look at our finger. Pretty much all mobs are at the dog stage of staring at the finger and rather than everything else. There's a quote from like Bruce Lee about fingers. There we are. Yeah, quote from Bruce Lee. Don't help from Enter the Dragon. It's like a finger pointing away to the moon. Don't concentrate on the finger or you'll miss all that heavenly glory. Essentially, that's what we're trying to do here. We're trying to get the Kirin to look at the heavenly glory. Okay. So now the Kirin is not mirroring us, they're actually looking at the point 100 ahead of where we're looking. Which is already smarter than most things. So, okay, next stop, ray trace, so we actually have a position that we could be looking at in the world. And that will mean that if we stare at, say, just underneath, just in front of the Kirin, they will not be staring in the opposite direction. I'm trying to think, what's the thing for ray tracing? Could I maybe do a rundown of what I've already done this stream? So far, the only other thing I've done is create custom wander code for the witch. So, the witch still wanders around, like most creatures do. Wandering Avoid Water is still active. But, if the position that they decide to wander to is 4 or more blocks away, and they can path to it, and then like 1 in 4 times, they will attempt to teleport directly to it rather than wandering, just walking. So essentially I've made the witch occasionally just flit from point to point rather than walking all the way. And that is basically all that we've done so far today. We're now currently we've made one AI code for the witch, and we're now making one for the Kirin, and then maybe we'll add a bit more to that later as well. What is the ray trace code? It's not just called ray trace. The world has something for this. Ray trace results. There you are. What is it? I use ray tracing probably a lot less than I maybe should. Okay, we actually have to use a ray trace. Gotcha. Well, we actually have to use the world. Gotcha. So this, the creature, get world, ray trace, start and end. So we've got look position and look point. So then switch trace dot type of hit. Add the missing. So if it's a block, we want to look at the block. If it's a miss, we want to look at the point. If it's an entity, we want to look at the entity. Let's see, where are you? Yeah, we just need to get thick. 3D, hit thick. And then same details there. So that will mean if we're staring at a block, at that specific point on the block, the Kirin will try to look at that. So if we want an entity though, look position with entity, trace dot entity hit. There. Okay, and that will also change as we're like looking around. So that should mean the Kirin actually follows things through. Like, is actually able to follow exactly where we're looking quite well, in fact. Which takes us significantly beyond the standard behavior of mobs, of just staring at other mobs or random positions. So let's see how that goes. So if we stare into, like, the sky, it'll be a miss, because nothing will be hit. So then, the Kirin will actually, like... Oh, yep, there we go. Aha, see that? They are, in fact, looking at the ground, rather than a point way further away. Okay, if we stare at the witch... Yep, they're noticing the witch. A very clever Kirin. Hey, hey. Pretty nice, pretty nice. And there was a problem there, because I'm presuming there was a null involved. Let's find out. They do be looking though, yeah. Null pointer, yep. At the type of hit, yes. So, if trace equals null, else... Yeah, if the trace equals null, we'll just look at the point. Kirin's eyes. Reminds you of a cat with a laser pointer? Yeah, I can see that. I wonder if I could... Would there be any meaningful justification for me adding some kind of laser pointer? Hmm. Okay, just tidying this up a little bit. Standard thing, if you have to type the same thing twice, it's probably worth storing it as a variable. But okay, that should mean that we don't have that problem now, because we actually have a help. We have a handle for if it's null. But the only way trace type of hit could be null is if the value is null, which basically means it didn't hit anything. Were the witch bait all affected by a laser pointer, or would they kill you for trying? Good question. Okay, so they're bulking every now and then because they're, it's only set to free, but it's high priority enough that it's actually just saying to everything. But yeah, they are looking around at what we're looking at. Which is pretty good. Pretty good, I think. I feel like the hitting of entities isn't quite fine, but I think this is good enough. Okay. So yeah, let me drop that down in priority. Because I think that's set. Good. And yeah, that should be about 7. 6 or 7. There. Okay. So every now and then, for about 3 seconds, they will follow what the nearest, what a random player near them is looking at. Can I further clarify that with it? Must be somebody we can see, because that'll make this a little bit easier as well. Let's find out. Does it care? Erase that one. Good, okay. Not quite. Oh, because it's bleh. There we go. Okay. We should also check if that is alive. And also not invisible. Probably also worth making sure that they're not invisible. Although to an archfey that doesn't seem terribly relevant. It's such a actually clarify here. I wonder if if the invisible code checks for whether you're yeah, in spectator. So as long as they can actually follow your eyes because you're not invisible or spectator or dead, they'll just tick that down. Okay. Is there a standard random on this? Yes, there is. But I think it's probably a bit... I think it looks smarter if they actually do it more frequently. Let's see how that works out. I also wonder if it would be slightly more interesting if they followed the eye line of every player. If it was just like a client-side thing that they look at exactly what you're looking at. Especially if like players are communicating and it's like, hey dude, he's looking at where I'm looking. What are you talking about? He's looking where I'm looking. No, he's looking at both. Not he, obviously, they, but... Okay, maybe we do need the randomness, because it does appear to be just triggering every single time. Okay. But that does look very interesting. It gives you more the sense that the Kirin is actually, like, following, that there's an internal monologue of you. Okay, and let's actually rename this as well to just look follow. And then we can also add that to the witch. Because we made it class agnostic. feel like that being a commonality between archfeys and ideas is a fun idea. Again, it's these little details that make it seem like there's a bit more going on in their head than you think of everything else. It's like, oh, that pig looking at stuff is completely irrelevant because it's not actually looking with any kind of intent, but a creature that's actually actively following where you're looking. That makes a dramatic amount of difference. The perception of intelligence is much higher that way. Yep, you can see they're both. For a brief moment, they were actually both looking at where I was looking there. Hello. So it's like a 2% chance that they start do. Where was you? Oh, you must be in the elf section of things. Are you going to look at it now? Hmm? Yeah, there we go. Yeah, it makes them seem more aware, despite the fact that there is nothing intelligent really going on. Okay. So, to paraphrase Bruce Lee, or to reference Bruce Lee at the very least in Enter the Dragon, our archfey are able to see the heavenly glory. So what next? The witch flits about, both of them now follow where you're looking at. What's another thing that we could add? Is there something specific to the Kirin that we could add, for instance? What do we think, folks? I still think there's something we can add to the Kirin. But I'm not 100% certain what. Like, I don't really want, like, this is like on the order of I want these to be things that they do rather than things that they produce, I guess would be the phrase. I don't want them, like, planting saplings or all that sort of stuff. Like, we have, like, 3 things here for Jimmy. Which is chase birds or follow the player, that sort of thing. Actually, is the good for following the player? No, that does use boulettes. Does it use boulette stuff is the next question. Not that I see, actually. Could make that agnostic. But I feel like if you see in basically all cases in Minecraft, when you see a mob following you, the reason is that it's trying to attack and kill you. So, having the archfey occasionally follow you is probably not going to go down well. Like, the exception to mobs following you, like, and not being hostile, is when they're pets. So it's either a pet or a threat, neither of which classifies the archfey. Walking up to you, though, might be, like, an idea. Like, they just occasionally, like, when they first notice you or something, they walk up to you and like, oh, hey, how are you? That sort of thing. And then they go back to their usual stuff. Which, I mean, you walk into, like, the witch's enclosure, and the witch walks up to you. There's an idea. Or you, like, come across the Kirin and they walk up to you. That sort of thing. That's a bit more of a complex one. But we probably could do that. Yeah. So Entity AI Greet, I guess we'd call it. So to do that, we're going to need a timer, essentially, for like, hey, how long has it been since I last saw you? That sort of thing. Hence, why I'm starting this off with a map. And we're gonna need some more mutex bits for this. 3, I think. Let's see, motion, head movements, so yeah, 3. Okay, and just a duration. So they walk up within a certain distance of you, and then that starts to, like, tick down. Ah, yes. Okay. Currently absolutely heck all here. So first we need to get a list of nearby players that the creature can see, which is a similar thing to following where the player was looking. Gotta love the sudden temperature shift from really hot to really cold, legit overnight. Yep. Okay. Right. So that will that will retrieve all the nearby players that we can see. From there, we go through the greet map, and we need to check all of the entities in that list. Well, we need to check if there's anyone that's not in that list, and wow, we're going to need to iterate over this as well, aren't we? That needs to be a long, so we can check when we last greet them. So for entity player in, let's call them visitors. So let's see if greet map contains key visitor, else new visitors, add that visitor. Okay, in the case of that, we need to check if our current time is sufficiently long. What do I want to say our greet delay is? Like 5 minutes? Like an hour? Obviously this will reset every single time, so there's that, but yeah. Let's see, let's give ourselves the current time here. So if current time minus greetmap.get visitor is greater than or equal to greet delay, So either we haven't greeted them ever, or we greeted them sufficiently far enough back that we are okay with greeting them again. Alright, so... target player... Oh, we also need to factor in that we can pav to them. We're gonna need the navigator in here. This is a complex behavior. Okay, so if new visitors is empty, return false, we've got no one to greet. Otherwise, target player equals new visitors dot get creature get RNG next int new visitors size. Just gonna make sure this never executes whilst we're in combat. We don't want to be handing out pleasantries in that case. I also should probably make sure that that's not happening. There. Okay. Yeah, Aspa, what's up? What'd I do? What's up? Why the scrams? Just so what I've done with the subs and the tiers? What? I'm not following. Oh, the hats? Have you not seen the hats yet? Hats got stars to them? Do they? I don't remember adding stars to them. Okay. So, when it executes, we move to the player if they're more than 3 blocks away from us. We then stop at the 3 block mark, and Tier 2 has a silver star while Tier 3 has more gold stars? I don't recall adding that, but that's cool. But let's see. And then they are constantly looking at the person. Okay. So... Then we... If we are less than that, we want to be then ticking down our timer. And our reset task. If this dot target player does not equal null, this dot greet map dot put target player greet delay. Actually, no, we want the current time, because that's the only way we can make this actually work without iterating over it continuously. So it remembers who it, like, most... They remember who they've recently greeted, essentially. Okay, and last little bit before we can test this. What does iterated mean? Going step by step is to iterate. Like, an iteration is like one run of a loop. So, for instance, each iteration of the FIFA game has been basically identical. Or each iteration of Call of Duty has been increasingly exploitative and weird. It's like each new instance. Yeah. Taken over. Return this dot target player does not equal null, and this dot target player. The creature. I feel like there's another thing we should add to that. This dot greet timer? Yeah. Is greater than 0. If there's no path to that creature, we probably should just start ticking down that. Just in case we otherwise get stuck permanently. So if the navigator dot get path to the target player equals null, then also tick down the greet timer. So they'll still look at you, they'll just won't be pathing to you at that point. Is there anything else I've missed here? Again, this is a fairly complicated thing. I think this is good. Okay. So, add task, say it's a 6. We'll add that to Kirin, and let's, for the moment, dial that down to like a minute. So once per minute, they'll do that. Let's find out what happens. So what should happen is that when we get within 16 blocks of the Kirin, they should walk up to 3 blocks away from us and stare at us for about 3 seconds. Actually, maybe that's a bit longer, so it's more obvious what's happening. And then they'll go back to whatever they're doing. So essentially, they're greeting us. That's the that's what we're trying to get here. It's like, oh hey, you're visiting. Great, hi. Can we get this test done in the next few seconds before I go to my last break? Apparently not, because it just ticked over. Okay, so there's the Kirin, who is looking at what I'm looking at for a hot second there. It appears to be doing that a lot more often than anything else. I didn't build in a chance. No, we just saw the witch teleport in the background there. Good. I don't think it's working, but we'll find out why in about 10 minutes, everybody. Welcome back, everybody, to the final hour of our evening here, and tonight we have been adding some personality to our archfey, which are meant to be highly powerful, highly intelligent, nigh unkillable creatures, but they're meant to be especially intelligent. So we have been trying to make them a little bit more fleshed out in terms of their AI. So for the witch, we have changed their wander code so that every now and then, instead of walking to a destination that they want to wander to, they will teleport immediately, which ties in quite nicely with their abilities and their general flair. We have created an AI code that causes these mobs to also look at what you are seemingly looking at, rather than just at you or a random position or a random mob. And they'll do that for about 3 seconds at a time occasionally, so it actually looks like they're understanding that you're looking at something. And we are currently trying to work on a greet AI, which is to say that if you walk up to them after a significant time apart, they will walk up to you and look at you for a few seconds as though they're like, "Hi, I haven't seen you in an age, how are you?" And then they'll go back to whatever they're doing. But we experienced a slight problem when we launched it, which was that nothing happened. And I think I know why, which was that this was originally equals and not doesn't equal. Which meant that if we successfully found a player to greet, nothing happened. Because we then said it right there. So, corrected that. Hopefully, that means that the Kirin will walk up to us and say hi when we load in. Provided we're within 16 blocks. And they can see us and compare to us, which are important values. Now, this isn't a perfect system because it's entirely inside of the AI code. It's not saved between like chunk unloading and loading. So if in theory, if we set this to be like an hour apart between greetings of a player, and then you unloaded the mob by going far enough away and coming back within like 5 seconds, they would still greet you over and over. But if you leave them in spawn, they'll actually know much better. Archfey might end up also being like passive chunk loaders or something, but we'll see. So what we're looking for is that the Kirin walks up to us and just stares at us for about 3 seconds. And it looks like he is indeed doing that. They are doing that. Hey there! How you doing? Yeah? You doing good? Okay. And in about a minute, they'll do that again. But I think that means this works. Just Xenomorph Queen off to the side there. So yeah, the duration between greetings is currently set to a minute. So we should see the Kirin walk up to us again fairly shortly. And if they are closer, then if they can't path to you, that timer still ticks down, though, so they just spend the time looking at you, essentially. How are you doing? Nods about the same amount of communication skill as me there, Kirin. Yeah. Yeah. Oop. Hello again. How are you doing? Okay. There's a little bit of quality assurance code here I want to do, which is if we are more than 3 blocks away and there's a path to us, but the navigator has nothing. Okay, so else if this dot the navigator dot no path and a path exists, then basically we just want to repeat that right there. So for less than 3, clear a path, start the timer. If we are more than 3 and it's possible for us to get there, but we don't have a path currently, then try to move. Otherwise, reduce the timer. Okay. So let's change the greet duration to 5 seconds. Let's change... let's leave that delay there for the moment, and let's add this to the witch. So entity AI greet. This could be terrifying if, like, the first time that you encounter the witch, they're in their Xenomorph Queen costume. You should see a Xenomorph Queen walking up to you down a tunnel or something. Oh, imagine that. Given that we have a timer, I could theoretically add a little bit more motion to the heads. It's like currently they're just staring at your eye position, but I could have them like look down or something occasionally, as sort of as though they're talking. Look down or up. But that's very that's very Minecraft YouTuber kind of data right there. Well, hey there. Good, you are trying to follow me. Very good, very good. Yeah, it's a very Minecraft YouTuber thing to be like, how do we make it look like somebody's talking? Well, we basically just have to enunciate with the heads so that you can actually see that there's like some volume and data and like stuff being said, that sort of thing. Like that's very like that is a thing that you learn being a Minecraft YouTuber, is that you have to sort of enunciate not with your hands so much as with your cursor. But we could try and program that in, like just by modifying what the look helper is doing. Imagine if you actually nodded your head while talking IRL. I mean, we kind of do. It sort of imitates what Chin does. And there's also like all sorts of things that we do like with our heads to sort of accentuate our points, that sort of thing. Facial expressions and head movement does actually factor into it. But of course, Minecraft's characters have none of that. Your jaw moving, not your whole head. Yes, but this is the concept of like animation. In the concept of animation, what you're doing is an imitation of something which is not necessarily directly comparable. It's like smear frames in animation. They're not something that actually happens, but they help your brain to convey what's happening. Okay, just shuffling this around. Right. So, how do I want to do this? We basically want to use the timer as like a cyclical thing. But we don't necessarily want to take a cyclical thing of just like always being the same way. Okay, so switch if this dot greet timer modulo 10 equals 0, switch this dot the creature dot get rng dot next. Let's see, if this dot the creature get RNG next int 4 equals 0, this dot look offset equals 0f, else this dot look offset equals this dot the creature dot get RNG again, next float times 2f minus 0.5f, or minus 1f. So that should give us that should give us a value between positive 1 and negative 1. And then it's called ipos vec3d. This dot target player plus x. This dot target player to plus y plus the height again. We did this for look follow. And to that we'll also add look offset. And then here we just need to set that with the look helper There. So that should mean that there's some actual, like, wobble as our greet timer is going down. So every, like, half second that it's happening, that should happen. Let's see how that works. This is like 120 lines of code just to make a creature walk up to you and wobble their head up and down randomly. But the in-game result for a player who's not aware that this is code, essentially, is that they look more alive, weirdly. It's like they've actually, like, come up to talk to you or something. Which is also another, like, Minecraft YouTuber thing. It's like a common thing that we just sort of interpret. Whenever, like, a creature walks up to us, like, very few creatures actually are programmed to walk up to you. It's just a random thing. Yep, that was definitely the head bobbing. We can see it there. Oh, that was beautiful. I feel like we might need to change it to like 0.5, but that was beautiful. Oh, yeah, the lightning bug. Well, the inside out bug is still there. Okay, in about a minute, we'll see that happening again, a bit clearer. Or actually, I can just go over here and unload the chunks. If I just reload the world, we'll see that bit clearer. Okay, so let's see what happens. Okay, the witch is coming to have a word. I thought. Oh, I think the Kirin's coming to have a chat. No? I guess because the greet timer's ticking down while it's doing that. Yeah, that's probably it. Okay. They saw you and said nope. Yeah. Okay, so if there's no path. Ah, right. Okay, so because they have a path, this automatically skips. So we get to that. Right. So we need to dip that down a bit. There. How's my day going? Ah, not bad. Mostly chilling a fair bit, because kind of low on spoons today. Right. Now that should work. So if there's no path, but a path exists, they'll continue it. Otherwise, they'll just knock down on that. And let's have them follow you with their follow you with their eyes during that period. Okay. Yeah. Pixel appreciates the pets. Although poor Crescent here hasn't had any pets all night. Okay, so now their attention should be longer than 3 seconds. Using this to replace the science and tech welding class you had today because class got cancelled. Well, I don't know if I'm necessarily being very educational today. I guess I am, a little bit, on the sort of like how you implement AI that gives the impression of intelligence rather than actual intelligence. Yeah. Yep, there we go. There's the head bobbing. Nice. Okay. Didn't quite work out, but if we move to the Kirin, we should hopefully see it. So, yep. The head's definitely moving. I feel like we need to increase the duration of the greeting. Feed the baby. Yeah. Due to bad air quality. Oh. Where are you that's having bad air quality like that? Yeah, let's reduce this to being between negative 0.5 and positive 0.5. And then I maybe feel like we need to increase the rate at which it happens. Is it because of fires? Oh right, yeah, California's on fire or something, isn't it? Raining ash. Wow. Hope you're safe. Blimey. Okay. Increase greet duration to 15 seconds. So there's a 1 in 4 chance between iterations of this that it will reset to be looking directly at you. And otherwise, it generates a random value between negative 0.5 and positive 0.5 to look up and down. Jeez. Well, stay safe, Tanif. So, to summarize, we keep track of everybody we've greeted in the last minute, and if we find somebody new within 16 blocks that we can see, we walk up to 3 blocks away from them, and then we bob our head up and down for about 15 seconds, looking in their direction, giving the odd, but still somewhat readable, I feel, implication that they're talking to you. Et voila! I have created Minecraft YouTuber talking.anim. Huzzah! Huzzah and jubilation! I have created Minecraft YouTuber talking.anim. Nice. Okay. We'll dial the duration back down, but that is nice. It's a weird day when you manage to boil down a significant feature of your career into less than a dozen lines of code. But if it works, I guess. Okay, target player doesn't equal null, greet time is greater than 0, yes, all good. Question because you catch things immediately? Oh. Well, then just moving the mouse? True. But bereft of an actual audio line, we've actually got it working. What other creatures are we thinking of adding? Oh boy. Well, there's a few that are on the list so far. We inevitably end up adding a lot more than is ever on the list, but let me see. The ones that we have so far, we have kobolds, we have the Ubervidron, which is a top tier boss, we have Pegasi, we have goblins, trolls, ogres, griffins, monkeys, mimics, giant crabs, regular crabs, ravens, scorpions, rats, and giant rats, giants, giant zombies, varieties of floating skull. We have the boulettes. We have the entire cadre of limb to add. I've only got 2 of those so far. We have zombie kobolds as well. We have wargs, which are like big dogs. We have wargs, which are even bigger dogs that you can ride. We have never golems. We have end golems, which I have it on a good authority are a frequent pest for anybody flying in the never and in the end and such. We have mega raptors. We have velociraptors. We have a T-Rex boss. We have whales in various varieties. We have whale skeletons. We have the witch. We have the Kirin. We have a variety of changeling, which are going to be a big part of the witch's patron pact, because you can make a pact with them like a warlock for power. We have lightlings, similar for the Kirin. Coming in release 7, we have the boss update. So we have Beholders, the Iron Colossus, we have Liches, Mind Flares, we have a rework of the Ubervision to actually make it actually do stuff, because right now it's mostly decorative. We have Gargoyles in release 6, Homunculi, which will be a thing a helper entity that you can actually create. We have the Giant Squid, we have Shadows, we have Will-o'-the-Wisps. And then in release 8, currently we have Gnolls, we have Frogs, Giant Frogs presumably as well, and Froglings. Are the Ravens tameable? Not presently. Suffice it to say, when this mob is described as the monster manual of Minecraft, it ain't kidding. This adds a lot, and that's just in the entities thing, which is the major thing of this, believe it or not. Looking at like the blocks and the items, you wouldn't necessarily believe the entities were the main focus. But the items and all sorts are just to make the entities really pop. Yeah, the ravens aren't currently tameable. Tameable birds are a potential thing in the future, but parrots and whatnot don't exist in 1.12, so I don't really have a metric for them. Actually, do they exist? No, they do. Yeah, they do. So I guess theoretically I could work on that. But yeah, they're not currently a major thing. But yeah, we've got like so many creatures, and then many of these creatures are blindingly deadly to vanilla players, so we had to then add ways for you to catch up between like early game and then. So we added new weapons, we added new armor, we added a whole magic system and how to create it and such. And it's just hoi. There's a lot, suffice it to say. This mod got a lot more complicated than it originally was, because what it originally was essentially a wardrobe. Originally, this mod was made so that you would have some really interesting looking entity models to use for custom NPCs that didn't just bog your game down with a whole ton of other stuff. And it worked very well for that. We used that on New Helena. But people kept asking for a lot more out-of-the-box functionality. They didn't want to just include a mod that was something you had to use with something else and there was a whole ton of setup to get it to work and do stuff and that sort of thing. They wanted something they could just drop in and play with. So we gave them more AI, we gave them more features, and then we had to start adding other features to make those features functional and all sorts. So like there's the entire phylactery system. Like we have liches down here. The phylactery system that they'll be using to respawn is already implemented. That sort of thing. I'm so happy we got this greed code to work. And I'm so happy it looks so good. So 4 times per second, they randomly change what the vertical offset from where they're looking at you is, occasionally resetting back to straight in your eyes. But it just gives this nice kind of visual of, hey, here's them talking to you. That's nice. I should use that for more things. Now I am worried that when people see something like the Kirin or Xenomorph Queen Witch walking up to them to greet them, that they might mistake that for being an attack. I guess I could put in a random chance here as well, just to make it clear that if they were a hostile creature, they would already be walking to you on sight. That's probably worth doing. Yeah. Like, another thing I could do to have them actually, like, look as though they're talking to you is, like, swing their fists, occasionally. But... let's make that like a 45% chance. There. So it won't just happen as soon as it finds something. It will actually, like, click a little bit. Okay. And then we set this to an hour between greets, or presumably when they were last loaded and when they were loaded again. Oh, and that'll be good. So they follow where you're looking occasionally. They actually greet you when they first see you. The witch randomly teleports rather than walking around sometimes. That's a fair bit of colour, but I gotta say that's mostly to the witch. I still feel like there's something we can add to the Kirin, but I'm just not sure what it should be. We could have the Kirin observe trees. Sort of. There's an idea. How do I name this? Examine blocks? Don't know how quickly I can make this work, but we're gonna try. More bits, thanks for the host. Okay. So let's see. That's block position, target pos, I guess we'll make that. So for this, we want to look around the specific area randomly and find ourselves a block like that. So let's see. Let's have a counter. Let's do a while. Which Kirin, Fuzz? Who else are we getting in the contracts? Fun? Fuzz? Yeah, Fuzz is the Phoenix quest. Let's say 30 attempts. And let's also make sure we don't do this if the creature has an attack target. Essentially, what I'm gonna do is feed this, like, a leaf block and have the Kirin look at random leaf blocks in their vicinity. Which will mean that when they're in a forest and such, they'll actually occasionally look up at the trees and whatnot. Let's see. Target block away, random targets. That should be enough. within... Yep, okay, good. I think block positions can be generated from Vec3Ds. I'm not 100% certain on that, but we're going to find out. Yes, they can. Okay, good. Then target pos equals pos and return true. Okay. And examination 0. Okay, and then start executing is fairly straightforward. We just need to set the look helper to look at the position. Which would be this dot target position dot get x plus 0.5d, target position dot get y plus 0.5d, and target position get z plus 0.5d, which will put the position at dead middle of the block. Okay. We don't do a check to see if the creature could actually see that position. There's no ray trace involved, but that should hopefully be a start. Okay. Examine, block this, blocks, dot leaves. There's 2 leaves, so plonk this in twice. Okay. And I'm going to take out the greeting and the following for the moment, and see if we can get our Kirin to stare at some leaves for about 15 seconds. And randomly throughout the course of that, we'll change it to we'll try to find a different one. But for right now, we just want to see if we can get you to stare at an leaf. Oh, I didn't set the new text bits. Right. So there will be other code that tries to actually do that as well. Two, I think. Is it 2? Yes. Okay, now we can try. Oh. And I need to also check that. Actually, no, if it... That should be fine. It should break out of that loop by itself if it runs out of attempts. If the last attempt doesn't find a position, it should still return false. Only returns true if it finds the right block. So we could use this for a variety of purposes if I can get this working. For instance, if we had like an alchemist NPC or something, we could give them this and set it to like brewing stands or such. Oh, I should make that be a list of blocks. But we can do that later. We need to first see if we can get any block. So it's within 8 horizontal, 4 vertical. We have already crashed. What happened? Examine block. What happened here? Block position? Oh. Was the random position generator null? Yeah, null pointer apparently. Huh, interesting. Well, that's fine. We can create our own one. Get position. Add. We need an RNG up here. Actually, we're gonna need the RNG later on anyways. Just call that rand. So that'd be this dot rand dot next int 8 minus 4 minus 2. There. That should be fine. You notice a lot of these are just things that make them seem more directly connected to the world, as though they're actually, like, thinking. And again, this is a matter of aesthetic intelligence as opposed to actual intelligence. Actual intelligence is stuff like figuring out how you get from A to B, and whether a given route is nice, that sort of thing. Actual intelligence is like managing a hive, and the such. But there's this weird thing for humans, which is that we recognize things done smartly and efficiently as being mechanical, rather than organic, as it were. And conversely, we recognize things done inefficiently or without meaningful purpose as being more organic after a point. Okay, I need to cover you in leaves to see if you'll... no, you're actually going to stand nearby one already. Okay. I think we need to increase the vertical, because I think 2 blocks might be too little. What you essentially need to make something look to be intelligent but not mechanical is that you need to have them do things that seem as though they're connected to the world around them but don't necessarily achieve something. And that's where you get things like just like casual idle animations and such. It's where you get things like looking at trees nearby, that sort of stuff. Now let's make that 8 and 8, why not? Oh, I should include a reset. Also, there's no update here, so the examination would go on perpetually. Whoops. That's what I get for trying to do this quick. Well, I suppose there is the examination there. Okay. Now I will actually know if it triggers, and it should have a greater chance of actually finding a block there. Picks 30 blocks from an 8 by 8 by 8. 8 times 8 is 64. 64 times 8 is 256, I think. Nope, 512. That was close. I know that doesn't sound close, but computationally that's close. 256 is 64 times 4. So 30 blocks out of 256 in the vicinity. Those are all like those are all like computer numbers, so I should know them better. Okay, it's found leaves. Doesn't seem to be looking at them though. Interestingly. Okay, let's see. 2377824. Indeed, these are leaves. The Kirin doesn't seem to be looking at them though. Interesting. But that was a vague success, believe it or not. Okay. So if this dot examination, say 10 equals 0, then we try and find a different one, but we also want to actually be setting that position. Okay. This dot target pass equals find block nearby. Return target pass does not equal null. Does not equal and does not equal the old one. Then this dot target pass equals new pass. There. So twice per second it tries to find a different block to look at. Which A, that code should now reinforce the Kirin to be looking at the block. B, it should also cause them to look around other leaves. And later on, I can code it to be look ideally for other blocks near to the block you're already looking at, so it looks like they're looking at the tree rather than just random leaves in the area. Don't know if that's... It's like a 4x4 area, really, isn't it? So now, there's no actual check here for whether the Kirin can actually see this, so I'm just going to teleport the Kirin into here. Unlike the witch, they can't actually escape. Oh. Did I... What do you mean patron Kirin? Oh, patron. There. There you go. Now you're observing the trees. Hooray! Our Kirin is enjoying the trees. How nice. I had to encase them, but... Whew. sound like part of a documentary? Yeah, I guess maybe. Right. So, with that, we had a little bit more semblance of intelligence to our mobs, and I'm afraid that is very barely the end of our stream for tonight. So I hope everybody's enjoyed. So in the course of tonight, we didn't accomplish anything ground-shattering, or we didn't make anything tremendously magnificent, but we added some surprisingly complicated behaviors to our archfey that makes them seem more alive. And a little bit more intelligent than your average Minecraft mob. So to summarize, we made the witch, when they are wandering around, occasionally teleport instead. Yep, you do your mouth thing, why not? We then made both archfey, occasionally, instead of just staring at you directly, actually try to follow where your cursor is pointed. And we then made them walk up to you and like bobble their heads when they see you for the first time in a while, to sort of emulate the fact that they might be greeting you, like saying, hello, how are you, nice to have visitors. And now we have given the Kirin their own special thing, which I'm probably going to overhaul slightly off camera anyways, which is that they will occasionally look at groups of particular blocks in the area, those being leaves, so they'll occasionally enjoy the flowers and whatnot. So yay for that. As I say, that's all I have for tonight. Hope you've enjoyed. My next stream is, of course, on Thursday at 9. We have some of the first tree for Midnight Foxes. We'll also continue our little vacation away from Monster Hunter World. And then on Friday at 9, we continue on with Soma. And at 9 on Saturday, we should have some carousel of some random games with the patrons. And meanwhile, I do make videos over at youtube.com/remembercomic. And everything I do is powered by people like you over at Patreon, at patreon.com/lying. You keep the lights on, you keep me fed, and oh boy, does that mean a lot right now. It really does. And with that, I hope you've all enjoyed. I'll catch you all as ever next time.